YouTube, and welcome to another Kinsley Custom Guitars episode. And today we have a special video. We've got our PCB mat out, which means that it is a soldering episode today. And what might we be soldering today? Well, I'm sure, oh geez, this is really well taped. I'm sure many of you have already figured out from the thumbnail today that we are going to be building a Klon clone. This is the kit that is available on Amazon for about $45. It's pretty well packaged. Pretty nice box that it comes in right there. Screws are already out. That's a nice touch, and it's all already packed in here. Thank you for my dear friends. Thank you for my dear friends. As you can tell, this is not a super high quality kit. It's from Landtone, prolandtone.com. Looks like they've got a Hotmail address as their business address. Wasn't sure anybody was still using Hotmail, but here this is. So here's all the components. Box seems to be fairly, it's kind of thin, but it'll definitely take some stomps. There's a little bit of a blemish in the finish right there, but that's okay. So we're going to set this box off to the side for a moment. And let's look at our goodie bag here with everything in it. It is very nicely packaged though. I will say that. See how good their English is. Dear customer, many thanks for your order. We hope that you are satisfied with our products. If any concern, please do not hesitate to contact us. Best solution will be provided. We will try to make customers satisfied. We will try our best to make customers satisfied. Meanwhile, if you had a pleasant buying experience, your positive feedback is a recognition and a motivation to our efforts. We appreciate so much for everything you have done for us. Any questions, please contact us. Oh, this one's got a Gmail address, while this had a Hotmail address. Interesting. Alright, so that's just that thank you for my dear friends card that we saw in there. Alright, let's see how good these instructions are. The translation on this card honestly wasn't bad. Gives me hope for this. So let's see what their manual looks like. Oh, it's in color. Alright, we're gonna have to zoom back out for this. Please follow the steps below to install the product. Ooh! I have never seen resistor spelled that way. Nice. But the board itself looks fairly similar to a genuine Klon. I have a feeling that they based it off of the reverse engineered schematic that was made a while after the Klons were discontinued. But these look pretty good instructions. Like I've definitely built a few pedal kits, and definitely some of them have way worse instructions like this. I mean, look at this. Like, you've got this almost black and white side without any of the stuff colored in except for like color coding components. But this is like full color with the actual components installed in it, so you know what it should look like. Like, this is pretty good. Alright, so we are going to put this off to the side for reference later. Here is the board. pretty nice PCB. It's definitely got some weight to it. It's pretty thick. Everything is pretty clearly marked. Got the proper the proper markings for which side you need to put things on. It even specifies on the board here what resistance and what capacitance for each of the components. That is pretty cool. Like, we got a 10K resistor here, the diodes, 1 meg, 390 nanofarads, 390 picofarads, 4.7K resistor. Yeah. Nothing much on the back except notating which of the pots go where. But I am so far impressed with this board. That's a pretty nice board, and it fits very nicely right up there. All right, here are all of our resistors, and it looks like they are metal film, not carbon. It looks like, let's see if there's any carbons in here. It looks like genuine Klons had metal and carbon film resistors. Don't see any more resistors in any of these packages, but that's not a huge deal, but they are all individually labeled. That is a very nice touch. Not all of the kits I've done, like, usually they just give you a string of them taped together on the end, and you have to decode the color bands or measure them with a multimeter. All right, here's the screws and the rubber feet for the case. We'll just put that with the case. Battery clip. Let's just put this on here. We've got our Klon knobs, and they do have a set screw. Three position switch, latching, nice solid click. Looks like they went with both of these as a TRS jack, which is fine. It'll still work great. The reason you need one TRS jack is the input side also switches the unit into a mode where it turns on the power, basically. That way, if the unit is disconnected from the pedal board or something, it won't be drawing power from the battery. It completely kills any power input. And we've got our barrel plug here for 9-volt DC. And we did the resistors. Looks like this one has our teeny tiny pots, capacitors, the electrolytics. Oh, those aren't metal film. Those are capacitors. Got our diodes in there. IC sockets. I don't see the ICs though. Oh, no, they're in there. ICs are in there. Got all our wires here for assembly. So let's just zoom you guys back out here. Turn on the soldering iron, get that warming up. All right. So when you're building anything on a PCB, the best way to go about it is to go from the shortest components to the tallest components. So the shortest components on here are going to be all of the resistors and all the diodes. The only marking telling you where everything goes is on the board. It doesn't have a secondary marking on the directions. I can't seem to figure out how to operate a bag. Alright, so we've got our resistors. these out over here. Alright, we got all our resistors laid out. Let's find the diodes. There's the diodes, well, 2 of them, and I believe this one is for voltage regulation since it's not the same as the others. But just for good working environment. Oh, we got another diode. This one doesn't have any tabs or markings on it. Another diode. Alright. Oh, bumped the camera. Sorry about that. Get these out too, just get them ready. We'll put you guys over here on the side. These wires feel like they're wrapped in silicone. Interesting. Alright, so we've got all of our parts laid out and semi-organized. Haven't gone through and organized the capacitors yet because we're going to be working with resistors and diodes right now. So this is pretty much just a paint by numbers kind of a thing. Probably just going to do a time lapse of me populating and soldering all of these pieces. The way I'm going to do it is I'm just going to, bend the leads so that it's got little feet, feed it through the PCB, and then bend them outward on the other side so that they stay in position, and then flip the board over and solder everything. I'm using my trusty handy dandy snippers, snip off all of the excess leads. So we'll just go ahead and cut to a time lapse of that, and I'll be right back. Alright, so that first run of components is soldered in. I never claimed to be the best at soldering, and I've got some excess solder on the board. But we have no solder bridges, and it looks pretty decent. So I am going to head to go and move into the next stage. But one thing I definitely would recommend for doing this yourself, if you do it, I would install like maybe these 4 resistors here, flip it over, solder them, cut them. I would do it in banks because getting through that forest of ends of the leads was not fun, and as you probably saw in the time lapse, I did have to resort to clipping them as I went. So definitely, if you do this yourself, I would recommend installing like 5 or 6 resistors and diodes, and then flipping it over, soldering them, cleaning it up, and moving forward. So next, we are doing not the ICs yet, but the sockets for them. Yep, I think that's about it for this height of item. One thing you absolutely have to make sure of when you're installing these sockets and the ICs themselves is, let's get in real close on this. This notch on the PCB lines up with the notch right here on the socket. So definitely make sure you put those in the correct direction, because this one faces this way, that one faces that way, and this one goes up. Let's get those soldered real quick. Just buzz down the line real quick like with my soldering iron. Alright, so that's the next step. Now we are ready for the capacitors. Alright, and I think I'm going to cut to another time lapse here of doing the capacitors. So, one moment. Alright, so I just found something interesting. I'm getting in right in here. This one. This looks like it says 321 picofarads. But I do believe that the solder hole eyelet, that's the real word for it, but the eyelet for it has cut off half of it, and it's actually 821. This one here, I don't know if I'll be able to read that. Probably not. I don't think I'll be able to. There it is, 821. I believe that goes right in there, and of course, and on the picture, that's where it shows that it goes. Some of these are labeled in the capacity, like that one's a 68 nanofarad, that one's 100 nanofarads, but this one is an 821, which matches the code for the capacitor on here. This one, I can't remember what the value of this one was, but it was marked with its value, not the code. So I do have a capacitor code calculator pulled up so I know which ones go where. But it doesn't look like there was any uniformity in how they labeled some of these capacitors. Because that one definitely matches this one. But we've got like 3N9, 273, 222, 104. And like these are 104Js, which are 100 nanometers, nanofarads. But according to the calculator, that 104J code is a 100 nanofarad capacitor. So I'm just going to keep pushing through, but I did want to let you know that some of these are labeled by code and not the capacitance rating, because that definitely threw me off. Alright, so yes, those capacitors, especially on this side and these ones right in here, were listed by code and not capacitance. And these ones up here were listed by capacitance. It would be nice to see a revision of the board that labels them all the same way, preferably by code, so that you don't have to look up the capacitance. All the electrolytics were pretty easy to figure out. I mean, they're all marked right on there what the capacitance is, and the board is consistently marked with what the capacitance for the electrolytics is. So it's just these film capacitors and the tantalum that had a variety of ways that they listed them. Definitely made quite a bit of progress, but it is definitely time for me to go to bed. It is 1:17 in the morning, and I do have to work tomorrow. So I'm going to put this down for right now, and through the magic of editing, we will pick up where we left off, and it'll be like no time has passed for you. Alright everybody, we are back, and it's the next day, and we're going to continue working on the Klon Centaur. No, it seems like not much time passed to you, but a fair amount of time has passed to me. So looks like last night I left off after getting all of the capacitors in the board. We can probably go ahead and put the ICs in next. Let's see, what are these? Upside down. Looks like this is a 766S, 7660S. And that is this one according to instructions, and it also says that right there on the board underneath the socket. When you're doing this, you got to be real careful. Make sure all the pins are lined up before you start putting any sort of pressure on it. These pins are bent outwards a little bit too far, so let's pin them in. Alright, and pay attention to the notch. This one actually has both. You can see it has a notch, and it's also got the marker for pin 1 right up there in that top corner. And that marker, if there's no notch, also serves as the notch, so that has to go towards the notch on the PCB. Once you got it all lined up, push it down in. There we go, it's seated. Now the other two looks like they are the same op amp. Yep, they're both TL072 CPs, and both of these sockets are marked TL072. Alright, so, see, this one does not have the notch, but it has the mark in the upper corner indicating pin 1, so that is the side that goes towards the notch. Alright, they're all in, and it's seated. One more time. All of the chips are installed. And that does it pretty much for the small components. We do have the LED, but that goes on the back side here. And then we got to do the jacks, and we got to do the potentiometers. I do believe the potentiometers are next. Alright, so these are marked on here and right there. one B100K and 2 B10Ks. That's in. B103, B10K. I believe these are the same. Got our pots on, and I just saw that these are split shaft and these are set screw, so that could make it a little interesting to get the knobs on. Normally when you have a set screw knob you want a solid shaft potentiometer. They just grip a little bit better. So we'll turn this over. We're going to solder all of those in. Alright. Potentiometers are in. Now it looks like it's time to do the wires. The battery snap is labeled positive and negative. Alright, battery snap is in. Let's do the foot switch. So we're using pins 1, 2, and 3, and 7, 8, 9 of the foot switch. Foot switch is installed. We just got to get the wiring for the jacks. The LED is supposed to be mounted at the same time as the potentiometers, but you have to trim these leads to the correct length before you mount them. And I'm thinking it's going to be easiest to install the board in the case and feed the leads through the board and solder them with it in the case. That way it's guaranteed to be at the right height. Just think that's going to be the easiest way to go about that. Here we've got our TRS jack, and these just go straight across, so this one to here, middle to the middle, outer to the outer. We'll do another red, white, black, so there's this one, ring, so that should be ground, and the wire is not going to fit through the hole. Oh, that's wonderful. I really need to get better at staying inside of the camera. Alright, it's one jack installed. And with this jack, the diagram shows the jack in this orientation. It says you need this one and this one. However, when you look inside of here, these two are the tip and ring connectors. And this one is the sleeve, which is ground. Guess we'll see what happens. All right. And that is the whole board. Except for the LED, which we are going to install in the case. Send you guys back up too far. There we go. All right, so we're going to install this in the case now. We're going to put the LED in the case first so that we can feed it down into that. And then that way we're guaranteed to have the correct mounting height. I'm not 100% sure how you would mount that anyways, like even if it was on the board, because it can't come up through the bottom side. You have to mount it this way. Like the directions tell you to mount it first, but that LED light isn't going to fit up into there and it won't have any way to screw on. You have to do it this way. Alright, so yeah, they want you to just put the leads on for the barrel jack because it has to come in from the outside, which is true of this LED too. But the way they have it set up, it's not going to be removable. Let's see if this comes out. It does. Okay, that makes it much easier. That's going to be pretty difficult to get out of the board, though. Get the board out with that LED like that, because that took pliers to remove. So, barrel jack is shown in this orientation. So to simplify our lives, that's the way it's going in. I should probably put the board in first. That would probably be the easiest way to do that. So let's get this LED housing in. So that definitely needs to be there. LEDs, the shorter leg is negative. Same thing with capacitors. So I'm going to push that down pretty far, and then when we get it aligned with the housing, I'm going to push it up from the other side and then solder it in place. There we go. This is the proper height for that LED. Let's get that soldered in real quick. That's about as good as I'm going to be able to get it. Alright, I just realized that I also forgot to clean the PCB, get all the resin off, but we'll do a test, and if it works, we'll take it out at that point. Well, even if it doesn't work, we're still going to have to take it out, but you know what I mean. Looks like this one's switched by having something in the out. Most pedals, it's something plugged into the in. Then I should have one spot somewhere for testing purposes. Alright. Moment of truth. LED light's not on. Alright, so something is definitely wrong. I just plugged it into an amp. Some signal is coming through, but it's very, very quiet. So I'm going to have to pull this apart. This video has definitely been long enough already, so we're gonna do this in two parts. Part one obviously was this video, it's gonna be the build. Part two is going to be taking this back apart and troubleshooting it. We're gonna look at the schematic for the Klon and see where we went wrong, double check all of our solder joints, that everything got seated correctly, and go from there. So take care, everybody. Enjoy whatever else you happen to watch on YouTube. But we did get it assembled. And next time you see this pedal, we're going to be taking it back apart and diagnosing it. So stick around for part two.